So I wanted to get you on this one today to get your perspective on something which I think will be very appropriate to my audience and for guys who are interested in joining us inside the Entourage next year. So what I've noticed is most of the guys that I work with now, they're over the age of 35. And then when I looked at my analytics the other day, I noticed that most of my audience are also in that age bracket of 35 to 45. That seems to be like the general age that most people are viewing my content. So I was like, okay, in our conversation today, I wanted to get your perspective on maybe insights that you could share as a 24-year-old that might be useful for guys over the age of 35. Because I think historically, when we used to spend time in tribes back in the prehistoric days, we didn't spend time just with people around our age group. I think the school system has fucked us over. I think people are just used to they you get brought up and it's like you're in the classroom, you have to sit here, you have to spend time with people around the same age as you. But I think in the tribal days we were hanging around with everybody, like 40-year-old or our elders or like people younger than us. And I've noticed I learn more from people who are younger than me or who are older than me, rarely from people around my age. So yeah, before we get into it, do you wanna just give a quick introduction as to who you are for anybody who doesn't know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, firstly, my name is Efrem, and I worked with Kristian back in 2023, April, May of 2023. Prior to reaching out to Kristian and coming across his content, my dating life sucked. I was going months at a time without getting laid, doing my best to get matches on dating apps and mass DMing girls through Instagram. All these methods that I found on YouTube that people swore would work, but yeah, I was getting absolutely no results from any of that. And so I hit a wall. At that point, I was 23 years old. I had gotten my first ever six-figure programming job where I was working remote. I looked pretty much just like this. Yeah, so in theory, I had everything categorically checked off. I mean, I'd been in the gym for a few years at that point, but yeah, I was just getting no luck. So as soon as I reached out to Kristian, as soon as I came across his content, I reached out to him. And yeah, no more than 24 hours later, we had our flights and accommodations booked and ended up meeting him out in Warsaw, Poland, where 1 month later, I landed back in San Francisco. And after working with Kristian, it was in a total 180. I went from somebody who could not get a date lined up to somebody who got more dates than I ever could possibly need. Yeah. And more importantly, I've got the skill set to set these dates up. Yeah. I mean, how good is it to have a bunch of dates lined up, but you can't get any more? Well, the great part about cold approach is that's the entire skill is getting the date. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I just can't be any more thankful to Kristian and to the entourage for for what they've taught me, what I've learned from the group, the encouragement, and then of course just being able to share stories and experiences is just fun. So yeah, that's a bit about me. And the topic that you introduced, very interesting. I I agree with you in that I can relate to this personally. So I've been coached in programming. I remember there were guys when I was 22 at the time. I was doing this programming boot camp, and there were guys that were 19, 20, 21, younger than me, teaching me a six-figure a year technical skill set. Yeah. So that's an example of a time when I needed to humble myself and learn from people that were younger than me, like you mentioned. And then the vast majority of the time, in my case, I've learned from people not my age, but people that are older than me. And so in my case, this would have been sales experience. So learning from books that are decades to centuries old. Yeah, this would have been coaching when I was playing football, and I would be getting coached by my coaches that are in their 30s, 40s. Yeah, it's these different areas of life. In this case, Kristian, right, just a few years older than me. These different areas of life where just because the person is not your direct peer, yeah, that you're the same age with, does not mean that they can't add value to your life. And so, yeah, I'm glad that you brought this up because I think that my age probably gives me a lot less credibility in some people's eyes. Yeah, maybe they see what I can do, but then they see my age also, then they think, all right, how much can this guy possibly know in 24 years? And to be fair, that's a fair assessment. I mean, I won't try to change your mind. I would just invite you to look at the results. Yeah, look at my life as a whole, my lifestyle that I've been able to create, and then backwards analyze that and decide if what I have to say is worth listening to. And so what could I share with guys that are older than me It's funny because I've recognized that I actually have quite the advantage having learned this skill set at 23 years old, for example, and referring to cold approach. And the reason I say that is because there was a lot more, there's a lot less rewiring that needed to be done by the time I ended up going to work with Kristian in Warsaw. So if you're a guy that's, let's say, 35 to 45 years old, you've had a decade more experience than me with the wrong mindset when it comes to dating. Yeah, you've been learning the wrong techniques. You've been learning from the wrong guys for 10 plus years, longer than I've even been on the earth. Yeah. And so it makes sense that these habits, these poor, incorrect thought processes are going to be more deeply ingrained in your brain than in mine. Yeah. And so that's why I say I was at a big advantage, because when I reached out to Kristian, I still was pretty smooth brain at the time, yeah, where I didn't know much. I'd been studying this stuff for 2, 3 years maybe, but there was a lot less rewiring that needed to be done. I kind of showed up and just said, all right, you're the coach, I'll listen to you. Yeah. Whereas a guy that's 35 might have trouble doing that because his ego has been cemented, yeah, reinforced for so much longer than mine, that he shows up and he's thinking, well, this guy's younger than me. Oh, what is this guy going to be able to teach me? Well, I have my own thoughts about the world that I want to assert, even though it's an immersion that I paid for to learn this guy's thought process, right? So for me, I just understood very quickly when I was in front of Kristian, there's no room for any of this. There's no time for me trying to assert what I think, for me trying to assert my opinions and my viewpoints on the world. I was in Warsaw to learn Kristian's approach to life, yeah, to learn how he gets the result that he got. And so, yeah, that was my biggest advantage, was humility, was just being able to be coachable, to just shut up, yeah, to just shut up, stop trying to show the world that I know what I'm doing and show that my ego is real and substantial. No, I just decided I'm going to humble myself. I'm going to listen to the person that has the result that I want. And yeah, that's the biggest thing I could share with guys, honestly. It's something that probably people don't really want to hear because it's not that shiny, right? You want to hear about some great technique that this 24-year-old has to share with you. In reality, my best technique was my ability to stop trying to pretend like I know everything and just listen to people that actually had the result that I wanted. So yeah, for somebody that's, let's say, 10 or so years older than me, 5 to 10 years older than me, and you're wondering what could you learn from me, what could you take away from me, I would say it's purely mindset, purely coachability. Yeah, your ability to stop trying to do the things that you've always done and instead learn something new, learn something correct, yeah, follow it properly, and then yeah, you'll see the results that you have in your life. Yeah, the cascading effects.
Yeah, yeah, I've noticed that with older older guys, it's easy to get stuck in your ways. It's like, oh no, like I feel as though I know what I'm doing. Yeah, but you have to look at the results over your life so far. And if you're not happy with the results you've been getting, then your way is clearly not working. So we need to take a different approach. But I do have more empathy for guys now than I used to. I do understand now because I was thinking about this myself the other day. Nobody tells us, like nobody teaches us how to do any of this stuff. I think, unfortunately, most of us are victims of programming. It's like whatever programming you've inherited, maybe it's from your parents, the media, the school system. So a lot of times we don't get taught any of this stuff. We never get taught about mindset. We never get taught about relationships. Like my dad never sat down with me when I was 13 and was like, right, here's how to approach a girl. Here's how to have a healthy relationship. My parents got divorced when I was 5. So that was my influence of what a relationship was. My idea of a relationship was something that didn't last forever, which could be practical, but also it's quite pessimistic as well. So I think with a lot of guys, the more you age, the more these self-limiting beliefs start to solidify. So I think having a fresh perspective, and also I think what's cool about the community that we've got inside the entourage is there are guys who are in their 50s who maybe guys who are in their 40s right now might resonate with more because I'm 27, you're 24. But then if a guy joins the entourage and he's 41 and he meets somebody like Jazz, for example, who's 43 and he's looking at the life that Jazz is living, he's looking at the dates that he's going on, he's looking at who he used to be and now who he's become. I think that's everything because then it solidifies in guys' minds, oh, if he can do it, I can do it as well. And I think it's that permission element that people from all different age brackets can give you. But I think that attempting to rewire your internal belief system on your own, I do think it's a losing battle, especially the older that you get, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's even a statistic where you're you're less likely to learn a language effectively the older that you get, or something along those lines. The people that learn languages the easiest are between the ages of, let's say, 6 and 18, or there's some stat like that. Yeah, and it makes it makes complete sense. Yeah, the longer you go, the harder it is to learn and pick up the skill. The longer you go down the wrong path, the harder it is to turn around and make ground on the correct path. Yeah, and so for me, I lucked out. I happened to come across this at 23 years old, and so I recognize, wait, I'm beating a dead horse right now. I'm completely walking down the wrong path. I'm getting no results, and I can see that. Yeah, and so instead of continuing to try to DM more girls or get download more dating apps, or hire a photographer to have more professional photos on these dating apps, instead of trying to maximize the wrong vehicle, I'm just gonna jump ship. Yeah, I just changed vehicles. And so in this case, I cashed out because I found a vehicle that I at first I didn't even think was real. Once I got over that hurdle, I didn't think there's any chance that I could do it. Yeah, and then once I got over that hurdle and actually reached out to you and flew out to Warsaw, yeah, I just realized that it was the vehicle all along. The vehicle was what was stopping me all along. And it just so happens that this vehicle forces a whole lot of self growth and self development. And so that's why I think it's so beautiful, is because yeah, it is so whole when you think about it. Not only do you get the result that you want through this vehicle, and in actually, in my opinion, the easiest way possible, simply because it's walking over to a handful of girls and identifying the one that likes you. Yeah. That's why I think it's easy. But of course, in order for it to become easy, you must first go through the most difficult part of this, which is walking over when you're incapable, walking over when you don't know how to hold conversation, when you're not really good at flirting and doing this back and forth banter. Yeah, walking over when you're not really sure how to ask for her phone number, you're not really sure how to line up the date. That is the discomfort that they'll skirt around the edges for 2 decades before going over to the first girl for the first time, simply because they're afraid of that. They're afraid of the unknown, and Tinder is a lot more comfortable because they're doing it on their couch behind a screen. So yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. The earlier you get started, the better. But the good news is it's never too late. Yeah, we've got examples of this in the entourage. We've got guys who started when they were 50. Yeah, I'm not even halfway to 50 yet. We got guys who started when they were 50, and now they're crushing it. And now they're looking back, of course, wishing, I wish I started earlier. But at least they took action when they did. At least they didn't wait until they were 70 when it was really too late to look back and go, yeah, I had my opportunity, but I missed it. Yeah, I had the window, but it's closed now. It's not closed. Yeah, that's the whole message. Yeah, that we're trying to get across to people is that we don't sit on these live streams to gloat about our lives and how great our lives are. Shit, I mean, I'm so glad that I met Kristian, and I'm so happy with how my life is going. But what fulfills me the most is being able to share this. Yeah, being able to see other guys join the entourage, go from this complete mess, this sniveling, scared, nervous mess that is asking every question in the book about what do I do if this girl reacts this way. Yeah, a person that comes to mind is Richie. I remember the first few calls we had, group coaching calls with Richie, where he would ask every question in the book about what if the girl responds this way, how shall I respond if this happens, so many theoreticals. And I remember one group coaching call, all the guys just kind of had a conversation with him about, you need to just stop worrying about this and go in, it'll sort itself out, trust us, just go in, we've done this before. And then what do you know, 2, 3, 4 days after his immersion, all of those questions magically vanished out of his head. And now it's a complete different set of questions where the questions are actually applicable and no longer theoretical. And so this is the message, yeah, is if you start taking action, that is when your life begins to change. I don't know how I got on this topic, but if you wanted to add anything there, but yeah, I mean, that's what we're trying to share here. Yeah, is first you need to take action before your life begins to change. You don't consume content and then your life begins to change. This is a catalyst. Yeah, this is going to spark the action, but you need to take the action still.
Yeah, it's prioritizing the behaviors over the beliefs, because most guys, when I have conversation with guys, let's say over the age of 35, the general consensus is, yeah, but I don't believe I can do it. And it's like, the reason you don't believe you can do it is because you've not tried it enough. Yeah. Belief follows action. For anybody who's not familiar with Richie's story, he was on a 4-year dry spell when we first started working together. He hit a point in December of last year where he got back onto the dating apps because he thought they were going to be his savior. He was swiping on those for a couple of days, realized they were absolute garbage. And he was just like, what am I doing with my life? This is a guy who's got it all on paper, looks amazing, money in the bank, solid career. But the women's side of life, he just hadn't got that handled. 38 years old, he's like, fuck, am I going to get to 40 years old and still not had a proper healthy relationship? He's had toxic relationships in the past, which knocked him of his confidence. And then, yeah, when he first reached out, he had all of those voices. He didn't believe he was actually going to be able to make cold approach work for him. But you don't actually need belief in the start. You just need to take the behaviors of the person who can already get results from cold approach. And I think you said it perfect. It's just a case of trust, like just putting faith into other people who've already walked that path. He's asking all these questions like, what's the best open, what's the best time to go out and approach, all of this stuff, when all he needed to do was put faith into us, follow the path, follow tried and tested solutions, skip all the trial and error, and now he's in a far better place. Like, he's had multiple girlfriend experiences. He knows the exact type of woman that he wants. He's overcome so many of his negative self-limiting beliefs. And the priority for him, he just wanted to unlock the skill. For him, it was, I just want to be able to approach any woman, anywhere, anytime. And he's like, I know in myself, once I can do that, like once I can approach on autopilot, I'm not going to be needy again. I can finally get the women. I'm going to feel more in control of my life. I think you made the point on a previous stream. None of these other things really matter if you're not attracting women. I think you put it in a more blunt, less PG way than I did it. It is really true. And I've noticed that with a lot of the high achieving guys that I work with. It's like, cool, they've got money, they've got a solid body, they've got materialistic trophies, but they're sleeping alone every night. And it's like, the number on a screen, like watching your bank balance go up, it doesn't give you the same feeling as having a woman who actually loves you. And that's what all of these guys are craving. It's like they would sacrifice most of their money to just feel like they're receiving love from the feminine. And for a lot of them, it's like, yeah, I wish I'd have started sooner. Well, you didn't. You didn't start sooner. You were focused on your career, and that's okay, because maybe you followed the belief of build it and they will come, which is why I was saying at the start, it's not all their fault. Like, a lot of times we're just running on narratives which have been fed to us, like, get a great career, then the woman will come to you, build it and they'll come. And a lot of guys are waking up to that realization, or a lot of guys are realizing, no, it's not build it and they will come, it's build it and then deliver it. That's all that this is. That's all that we're teaching. It's just learning how to deliver your value that you've built to the world in a non-needy, unapologetic way. And yeah, I think Richie's a perfect example. And also, I love how active he is in the group. Like, whenever new guys join, they're just getting like, Richie out in the field. Oh, I've just done this approach. Oh, I've just closed this girl. I've just been on this date. It's just inspiring because he's got every reason in the world not to be putting himself out there. But like, he's blazing a trail at 38 years old. So now when I'm having conversations with guys who are interested in joining the group next year, and they're like 35, and they're like, "Do you think it's too late for me?" I'm just talking to them about Richie, Jazz, Graham, Mark, guys who are already older than them, who didn't think it was possible. And at this point in my life, I'm just like, it's kind of easy. Like, it's kind of easy when you put yourself in the right environment and you're surrounded by the right people. Change is inevitable. It's not a guarantee. It's not a quick fix. It's not saying, hey, come along, you'll get the result. You don't have to put any work in. No, it works as long as you do. I can't do the approaches for you in the same way that a personal trainer can't lift the weight on your behalf. But I think the final thing I'll say is, most guys over the age of 35, I think they've got a superpower that younger guys don't actually have. And it's a sense of urgency. So they've got way more pressure to actually get this sorted. So like, a guy who's 21 years old, look, he's got time to burn. Maybe he'll do this. Maybe he'll swipe. Maybe he'll go on holiday to Magaluf every summer and just like get absolutely destroyed. Like he's got time to burn. But like if you take a guy who's 45 years old, he doesn't have the time to burn anymore. So he's got more urgency, and that urgency inspires massive action. So yeah, I do think that's a superpower for all the guys. They just know they don't have the time to piss away anymore. In their mind, it's now or never. So I'm going to approach that girl. I'm going to listen to what Kristian says. I'm going to show up to the group coaching calls because I don't have a choice anymore. I've already pissed away most of my time. I think that's a big reason why the older guys that I work with get the results that they do, because it's like they've burnt the boats and they don't have a choice anymore, you know?
Yeah, wow, urgency and faith. I love those two when describing this. I can really I can very much relate to both of them. So urgency. Yeah, I think for me, probably, at 23, I kind of built to this level of urgency, and it wasn't forced urgency, right? Because, like you mentioned, I had all the time in the world, but it was kind of this manufactured urgency that I had created for myself, because I had been through all of these sales jobs, and I learned what it took to make a lot of sales, get a lot of commission, and so yeah, I just started to value my time. I started to value how much individual effort I can put in each day, and that one-to-one translated to our time in Warsaw, where I recognize I've got 30 days with this guy. So yes, I've got a lifetime to learn the skill on my own, but I'm not looking to learn it on my own. I want to get as good as possible, as fast as possible. So that was one of the big characteristics that I guess that I was showing in Warsaw was urgency. Yeah, was look, I know this is your longest immersion. We got 30 days together, but I want to get so good at this that getting girls becomes an afterthought when I get back to San Francisco, just like it has. Yeah. And so that was what I was exercising out there was how many approaches can I possibly manage each and every day that we're out here? Not because I want to go on all of these dates, even though that was a great bonus, but it was simply because I knew that the more reps that I have, the more experiences in conversation that I'll encounter, the more objections, the more questions that I'll encounter that I've never heard before, the better I'll get at answering these, the better I'll get at introducing new topics. Just recognizing that the more practice I can get while with my coach, the better off I'm going to be because the more substance we'll have to critique. Yeah, and so that's exactly what happened. Is I got myself into so many scenarios with so many. There are groups of girls. There's girls that were standing with guys or birthday party groups, and like because I'm going up to each and every one of these vastly different groups of people, each time I'm coming back to consult with Kristian, there's something new, right? When I'm standing in front of a group of 6, now the issue is, well, Efrem, you weren't engaging everybody. 2 of them started walking off halfway through your approach, and so it's like learning how. And you imagine the guy that can stop a group of 5 or 6, it'd be no problem to go and stop one girl sitting at a bus stop. Yeah, so yeah, I guess me describing that was just sharing with you that the reason I was doing all of these bold approaches was because of the urgency, like we talked about. I recognized that I didn't have all the time in the world with Kristian, so I wanted to get as much done as quickly as possible. Yeah, and then the second thing that you talked about a little earlier when you were speaking was faith. Yeah, faith and trust. This is a big one that I think you could get from 24-year-old me. Yeah, young 24-year-old me was. I mean, I'll be honest, when when I first wired over the payment to Kristian, there was still like 20% doubt in my mind. Yeah. I was still somewhat expecting to get ghosted, someone expecting to get scammed. Yeah, it's the whole thing felt so out of. I mean, it felt so out of the ordinary. Yeah, like I'm used to if I want to buy a service from somebody, it's like they've got a storefront or they've got a website where they're sharing exactly what they do, but it's very normal. It's like, look, I can bake cakes for $59.99. I'll bake your wedding cake. Here's what I've done. But it's like there wasn't anything like that for this space. There still isn't. Yeah, we're kind of building that as we go, and so there wasn't any way to to fully verify that this person was credible. I kind of just had to go off of faith. But for me, it was very easy because when I had my first conversation with Kristian, we talk about this in cold approach. It's who you are. Yeah. And so who Kristian was on that call was confirmation enough for me. I just needed to know that the person that I was talking to live on Zoom somewhat matched the person that I saw in those infields who walked over and had those outlandish conversations with those women. So when I hopped on the call and he had the same energy and he wasn't telling me about what I should expect and he wasn't giving me all these outlandish promises about, yeah, in the first week you're going to be matching or meeting a bunch of 10 out of 10s and this and that. He wasn't telling me anything about expecting or ratios or math. No, he just told me exactly how it is, exactly how I already knew it was. I was just too afraid to admit to myself. Yeah. He just goes, Efrem, this is going to be difficult. This is going to take a lot of work. Why are we on the call? Yeah. What are we doing here? What do you actually want out of this? Is this really just so you can get laid? Or is this like, is there a deeper rooted meaning here and or a reason? And uncovering that revealed to me just how legitimate he was. And so the decision was very easy. So yeah, faith and trust. Yeah. When I wired over that first payment, I was worried. I remember I told Kristian this when we were in Cyprus. The day before I flew out to Poland, I think this is Kristian's funny, demented sense of humor. He sends me a voice note where he goes, "Oh, Efrem, I'm excited. I'm gonna see you tomorrow. This and that. Oh, call me once you've landed." And then at the end of the message, he goes, "Oh," he takes this very serious tone. He goes, "Oh, and there's one other thing I have to tell you, Efrem." And he gets all serious, and I'm afraid. And then I'm thinking, oh no, he's gonna tell me this is a whole scam all along. He's gonna tell me he stole all of my money. And then he goes, "How excited are you to work with Kristian?" And I'm like, oh my god, it was real, right? So no, all this to share, man. I mean, I had just as much doubt as you may have, as any of the guys have. But it was just one foot after the other. I just continued to walk forward. I got on that plane. I landed in Warsaw. I met Kristian for the first time, and that's when it all became real. And of course, once I actually, he was physically in Warsaw with me. Yeah, I'd been going off this blind faith and trust. Once we landed in Warsaw and I saw the guy in front of me in the flesh, that's when everything became real. Yeah, it's almost like a piece of me was hoping that it was fake so that I didn't have to actually walk over to the girl. Yeah, and I could just be like, yeah, I got scammed, but at least I took a trip to Poland. No, it was as real as it gets. Yeah, and so there he was. And that's when all of the anxiety, what we call anxiety, it finally set in. But yeah, it was faith, man. Faith, faith, trust, and like you mentioned, urgency. Yeah, all three of those I was putting into practice when I was out there, and it really carried me through the whole immersion. So
Yeah, I think the urgency that you were experiencing, I actually think it's similar to feedback that I've had from guys who are over 35. So it's like your urgency in Warsaw, it was shaped by a belief that you could be doing better, and you could be doing better. So you had urgency to fix that because you didn't want to spend the rest of your life thinking that you were settling. And I've heard this in similar words to guys over the age of 35, where it's like, I just feel as though I could be doing better. Like whenever they show up in conversations, they feel as though a part of them is missing. Like they're never really in the conversation. It's like they're holding back slightly. Maybe they're scared of being men and having desires and finding these women attractive. And then they look at the women that they've dated historically, and usually it's just been the easy option. It's usually just been women who've been handed to them, or maybe a woman who approached them at a bar one night because she was just in the mood. So it's like that belief that they know they could be doing better, and the pain of not taking the action, which then compounds. So then if you've got a guy who's 47 and he's got this tapestry of failed relationships and missed opportunities, that's the urgency. And it doesn't actually matter what age you are, because you had that young, because I think you had the foresight to recognize, if I don't get this sorted out now, I'm going to get to Kristian's typical client age. And I'm going to be saddled with even more regret, but I'm going to have less time to fix it. So I think that belief that you could be doing better, and you could be doing better, I think that's a massive sense of urgency. I've felt that so much in my life as well, and I think that's what causes you to take the leap of faith. I remember the other month I spent £14,000 on business mentoring, and like there's a part of the older version of me who's like, "The fuck are we doing here, Kristian?" Like that was almost what I used to make in. No, actually, I think that was more when I used to work in a zoo. I used to clean lemur shit off toilets. That that £14,000 was like more than a year's salary when I was 17. So it's like to hand that level of money over in one payment to somebody that I've never met before, that was a big deal for me, but it was the pain of not knowing. That's what would have hurt me more. It's like, what would happen if I don't do this thing? I don't want to live with that. So yeah, I think it's that belief. I'm noticing it more and more. I'm kind of using this conversation to have a deeper understanding of why guys take action. I think that's universal. Maybe it's amongst men as well. But I think that belief that you could be doing better, but you're not taking the action to change anything, that's what pisses people off. I think it's when people are pissed off, that's when they take the action.
Yeah, wow. You put that into words wonderfully. I agree with you. Yeah, I think that I hit that point very early in my life. I recognized, yeah, that I could see myself, right? It's like I'm not stupid. I can see myself in the mirror. I heard about people. I go to these family functions, or sometimes I'd go to different areas where people would tell me that I'm attractive, or they tell me I'm handsome, and I could I could look in the mirror and I could see that, or sometimes I would every few months I would muster a relationship with a girl, and I could see how she would respond to me in on dates or in the relationship. And so I had, I had acknowledged that I was an attractive person. Yeah, I could see that I put work into my physique. I'd put work into my facial hair and my haircut and my style, but still was yielding no results. And that was the frustrating part. Yeah, was watching all these guys on the YouTube red pill rabbit hole talk about looks maxing, gym maxing, body maxing. Yeah, back then I think they were just completely labeling it self-improvement as a whole. And they would just preach for hours about how that was the key to all of my problems. They would preach how that was the solution to all of my dating problems. Just self-improve more. Oh, you're not getting laid as much as you want? Just go to the gym more. Yeah, and it was like I could kind of see why that would work, right? Because with their explanation, it kind of made sense. They go, well, the girl wants the strongest, best, richest, best guy possible. So that's what you need to become. You just need to become the best. And so I was like, well, I don't have any other logic to go off of. So for right now, that seems like the best. It's better than the Disney Channel chivalry logic that I was taught growing up. But it was still very flawed logic. There was still a big gap from what they were teaching to the actual answer at hand here, right? So that's why I resonate so much with Kristian. I mean, that's why I created my whole channel, man. After our immersion, is because finally he provided me with the answer that I was looking for all along. The question that I had was simply, what is a viable vehicle that will get me from strangers to date? How do I do that? How do I take this girl that's hot that I don't know that is a stranger? How do I take her from a stranger to a romantic date that I'm on? Yeah, how does that work? How do I do that? None of these guys could answer that question, no matter how hard I researched it. They just told me to gym max more. They just said, oh, you can't get your date. You just need to do more bicep curls. And I could not connect the dots, man, because I would do it. I would listen to them, and it wouldn't work. Yeah, I looked at this cool, people told me I was attractive. And then I would look around and I would go, if I'm so attractive, where the fuck are the hot girls? Yeah, where are these girls that they swore would be sprinting at me if I did all this self-improvement? They were nowhere to be found. I haven't even mentioned the job that I was working, right? I was making six figures at 22, and I'm looking around looking young, 22, clean. I got this nice style going with the thrift shop I was running. And yeah, man, I was just so frustrated. That's what you're hearing right now. It's just, I'm just reliving that frustration I was going through at that point in my life. Because like you said, I knew I could do better. I knew I had done better, right? I had actually met girls in the past that I thought were out of my league, and I just couldn't really figure out how I was able to attract them. I didn't really know why. Yeah. And so I could see that I had done better, but yet still I was going months at a time without getting laid. And yeah, nobody could provide me with an answer. I turned to my relatives or my friends at the time, and they go, oh, but dude, meeting girls is easy. You just gotta go over there. You just gotta walk up to them at the club, this and that. But every time I'd ask someone to demonstrate it for me, the girl wasn't cute enough, or they were a little bit too tired, or this or that. They couldn't go out that night. Yeah, and it was just so frustrating knowing that the person I had built myself into was a person that was able to attract women that I thought were out of my league, but being in that kind of position where I couldn't do anything about it. I was just stuck behind Instagram DMs. I was stuck behind the Bumble algorithm. Yeah, I just couldn't do anything. And so yeah, I hit that tipping point where once I was feeling that feeling, right, having gotten laid off from my job, still in this frustration. I remember I had to break up with my relationship, my girlfriend at the time, because she wanted more of a relationship than I did, and I wanted to be moral at that time. I remember even back then when I was scarce, I still wanted to do things the right way, and so I broke things off with that girl, and I jumped into the unknown, knowing that it would probably be a few more months until I got laid. And what do you know? When I decided to take that leap of faith, that is when I came across Christian's content. Yeah, it's when I decided, you know what, I really like this girl. I like everything about what's going on, but I just know that I'm not ready for this yet. And I canned it. Yeah, I canned the relationship only to discover Christian's content like 2 days later. I'm not even kidding. Yeah, it's when I was on the porch, sad. Yeah, I was sad about, oh my God, this girl's gone, this and that. That's when I was watching YouTube. That's when I came across Christian's content. Yeah, it all happens exactly when it's supposed to. Yeah, but I just, because I was in that position where I was like, who knows how long it's going to be until I get my next Tinder match that I'm actually attracted to. Because I was in that position, that is what caused me to reach out to Christian so quickly. Because I was thinking, wait a second, this looks so cool and so outlandish that it almost looks fake. So I'm just going to reach out anyways. What do I have to lose? All of these guys are telling me to self-improve. This is the one person that's showing me something different for the first time ever. Yeah, and so I reach out to Christian, and then the first call that we get on, he's already talking about things that are actually very applicable. Yeah, these guys are spouting red pill dogma about self-improvement. When I hop on the call with Christian, he's talking about, yeah, dude, just tell me that you're scared, man. Like, I understand. And I just couldn't believe it, man. I was like, yeah, finally somebody's actually having this conversation with me. This conversation that I've been trying to have with my friends at the time, with my relatives. I would have loved if my dad would sit me down and tell me about the fears that he faced when walking over to women, but he just never did. Yeah, his ego was still to this day is just far too big to ever have that conversation with anybody. But Christian's wasn't. Yeah, Christian was actually able to identify all of these learnings so early on through his magic experience, right? Through all the rejection he experienced when growing up and trying to break through that socially anxious shell that he had. And so, yeah, sorry, I don't know if I even had a thought to tie together there, but I was kind of rambling. But man, it's just, oh yeah, that's what it was. It's just I got frustrated enough to reach out. Yeah, it's like, guys, you kind of just need to hit that threshold. You need to really sit in the suck for long enough. I think part of this too is like maybe a lot of guys are in like very loose kind of relationships with girls that they don't really like, and it's just good enough to get by right now, right? It's like, maybe if this ends, maybe I'll reach out, but for right now, I'm kind of satisfied. That's more or less where I was. That's why I had to end things before I came across his content, right? So yeah, I think you really gotta hit rock bottom. Yeah. So for me, for guys, you just gotta, in your dating life, you just need to hit rock bottom and just stay there for a little bit. Look around, see how much it sucks to have everything in life sorted but your dating life. I mean, that's almost a worse position to be in than not having anything sorted. Because at least when you don't have anything sorted, you have other shit to focus on. For me, everything was good. I was on cruise control, except I couldn't get laid. And so it was just the most frustrating thing. I had more time than I needed. Yeah, I was working a remote job where I had more time than I needed. I had more money than I needed, was making more than I'd ever made in my life, more expendable cash. I had more style than I needed. I had all these thrifted clothes, and yet nothing to show for it as far as my dating life.
Yeah, it reminds me of that quote from Fight Club where it's like, it's only after we've lost everything are we free to do anything. I actually had a conversation with a guy yesterday who was interested in joining the Entourage next year. Turned out to be he just wasn't the right fit, but I gave him as much useful advice as possible. And he presented a situation to what you've just described there. He's like, I want to go out, I want to meet women, I want to approach, but I'm kind of seeing this girl at the moment. Like, we've been seeing each other for the past 3 years, and I don't want to make her feel bad. Like, I feel guilty for going out and approaching girls. I was like, dude, I'm just going to need to stop you there. You're using this relationship as a scapegoat for why you're not taking action. So I said, listen, if there's one thing you take away from this call, it's you make a decision. Are you either going to be all in with this relationship? If so, give that woman the attention that she deserves. Or if you're not, get rid of it. Get rid of the relationship. You can't be half a gangster. You decide, I'm a smoker or I'm not a smoker. Decide what you are and then be that thing. But I didn't realize this was actually a situation that guys are in. I thought that most guys who are watching my stuff were single, but they're actually not. There's actually a lot of guys who are in relationships. And it's turned the light on now because I came across this content in 2020 when I was in a relationship, and I knew, to come back to what we were saying, that, like, just before, I knew I could be doing better. I knew historically I could be doing better, but I kept settling. And as soon as I watched a couple of videos, I just made that decision. I decided to break up with my girlfriend at the time. We continued living together for 2 months, which was a weird scenario because it was during the pandemic, so we couldn't go anywhere. And it was that decision. I think we're all handed these decisions. It's like the stick or twist moment in a man's life. It's, are you gonna stick with the hand that you've currently got? If so, enjoy that hand and play it to the best of your ability. Or do you think that there is a chance to hit the jackpot? And I think for most guys, they know there's a chance if they stay in the casino and they actually push themselves and they overcome all of the doubt, they know there's a chance. But I think it's easier to stay in a okay relationship as it is to stay in a comfortable job. It's more comfortable to do that than take that leap of faith. If that leap of faith could actually spell something better, it's the uncertainty, it's the stepping into the unknown. But the thing that I say to people is, in 20 years' time, you would give anything to be back in this moment. So make the decision that your future self is going to be happy with. And yeah, I didn't realize, yeah, there are a lot of guys who are watching these videos. They might be in a relationship or some weird situation shit that they've got going on. They know they could be doing better, but it's comfortable, but it's easy. Oh, this is just how it is now. So yeah, that's an interesting point that you brought up. Yeah, for the final couple of minutes, was there anything else that you wanted to add to anything?
Yeah, well, I mean, if yeah, for the final few minutes, just to finish off that thought, I mean, in reality, I think that that is probably a lot of guys. Yeah, like I truly think that we've talked about the. I mean, we talked about this all the way back in Warsaw, where you mentioned to me sorry, first time I ever heard this phrase. You told me everybody just wants the best deal for themselves. Yeah. And I mean, everywhere I look, that phrase just seems to come up everywhere I look when it comes to sales in my job and people trying to haggle for their rent price, right? When it comes to girls and relationships and guys wanting to have multiple relationships and this and that, everybody truly just wants the best deal for themselves, and they're not really too, they want it at the least cost possible. Yeah, they want the best deal for themselves with the lowest price possible. And so I think that a lot of guys probably fit the exact criteria that you just described, where they feel shady, they feel guilty, they feel kind of like imposters, like half a gangster, because they've got this like very loose relationship with this girl that they're stringing along, that she wants something serious, but they don't want to fully commit to her, but they also don't want to fully get rid of her because they're worried about, just like I used to be, how long is it going to be before the next girl comes along. And so they're just in this weird gray area in life where they're just satisfied enough that they won't take action, but they're just dissatisfied enough that they continue to watch along with the content and consider walking over to the girl, but they never actually do it. And I think that that's just such a trapped place to be in. Yeah, that's why like I love our approach to life, because it's so extreme. Yeah, it's so end of the spectrum. It's like it's either we're going all in or we're just not going in at all. Yeah, and so that's what I had to adopt. Yeah, tying it back into the title is just this extremism, just this ability to just say fuck it, just throw my hands up and go, I'm in Warsaw right now. Nothing matters right now. Back in San Francisco, I can forget about who I used to be. I can forget about my current self back there, and I can just remake myself here in this city. And that's what happened. Yeah, I just went all in, man. I just got so extreme. I just went over to the most boldest environments and did the most boldest approaches. And that is who you're seeing in front of you in those infields that you can see on my channel. Yeah. So yeah, I just want to wrap it up with that is, yeah, maybe that's the wake up call that some of these guys need to hear. Maybe we've been spending too much focus talking to the guys that have trouble getting any girlfriend, that these guys that are in these weird gray area relationships, they think that they're getting off scot free. No, you could be very accountable as well. Yeah, you need to look yourself in the mirror as well, because you probably relate more closely to where I and where Kristian related. Yeah, where I could get a girlfriend before meeting Kristian, but I couldn't get the one that I wanted. Yeah, and so that's the problem that I had to face head on.
Yeah, those are powerful points. I think that's why it's useful to have conversations with guys inside the entourage, because like they can provide insights that I might have been completely unaware of. So that's really useful. Hopefully that spoke to the right person, because I think a lot of times we just need to be told what we need to hear rather than what we want to hear. And I think taking that no bullshit approach with things that we do, everybody benefits. So where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Pull University, is a YouTube channel that I run. Live streams, I just talk about my day-to-day approaching. I talk about date breakdowns that I've gone on, and then the actual videos themselves are oftentimes just me from the third person walking over to the girl. You could even see me from the first person when I had my little spyglass cameras on. And the point of the channel is to show you what is possible. Show you a guy that used to get no dates and show you how that person transitioned into a guy that can get more dates than he knows what to do with. So that's where you can find me. And then, of course, the Entourage is the other place you can find me. Once doors reopen, once Kristian is approving applications again, that's where you can find me. I'm pretty active there. I share my stories. I share about my dates. And then I reply. Most importantly, I reply to guys that are going through whatever they're going through. I give my 2 cents when I can. So
Yeah, just for clarity, make people aware. You can still apply to join us, but I'm just not letting anybody in until 2025, which actually seems like a long way away, but it's actually not a long way away. 2025, how the fuck did we get here? Fucking hell,
mate,
man.
we were just in Cyprus yesterday, start of
It's
the
actually
year.
it's actually crazy. Like we were in Cyprus at the start of this year. That seemed. I feel as though I've lived 5,000 lifetimes since that. Do you know what I
I
mean?
agree. Yeah, I agree. There's so much
Happened.
growth that's happened since then.
Going to those sprint fields, like most days, sprinting on the artificial grass. Oh,
We
what
were
a
doing
time!
those social freedom exercises in Costa Coffee or wherever we were.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, fucking hell, man. Wow, what a great year. Anyway, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. Hopefully, the boys have got value from it. I'll put your links in the title. I'll put your links in the description so people can go over and watch your stuff. And yeah, boys, if you enjoyed this, drop it a like, share it with your friends. And yeah, we'll do it all again another time. But thank you again.
You got it. Stay sexy.